All right, ladies, welcome to this episode of the She is Extraordinary podcast. I'm really excited. This is a topic that I don't know that I ever covered before. I'm here with my new friend, Susan Gygax, and she is a hiring strategist for online business owners. And she's the founder of Spectacle Talent Partners. And I love what she does. She partners with CEOs like you looking to make a sales, a marketing, or operations hire without worrying that you're going to make a mistake or waste time talking to the wrong people. So let's say hey to Sue. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here. Pleasure to be joining you today. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. I'm so excited to share you with my listeners. So let's start here. You have quite an impressive background, including leadership in talent acquisition since 2011. So I'd love you to start by just sharing a little bit about that background.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of you to say. Thank you. So in a nutshell, where I found myself, I actually started my career as a human resources generalist and took a turn into talent acquisition, which is weird. People don't do that. They do the opposite. If you're in talent acquisition, you try and get out of it and get into being a generalist or something. But what I found over time was I was in these leadership positions at companies whose growth had outpaced their talent attraction and acquisition practices. So it's an enviable position, right? Because you're growing so quickly. But they were having a hard time keeping up. And so I grew my career at these businesses by helping them mature their talent acquisition function. So creating processes, creating policies, implementing technology, and so important, creating a culture around that talent acquisition team and helping to transform those recruiters from very transactionally minded, sort of how many people do I have to hire today, to becoming trusted advisors in the business. And so having that experience at a couple of different companies, multi-million and multi-billion-dollar companies, I was able to figure out what worked and didn't work. It's all of my earned and learned wisdom over the years. And so what I did was in early 2020, who knew? I sort of took that sort of background that I love to do and coupled it with the heart I have for small businesses. I'm one of 5 children. I grew up working in our family's restaurant. And if I had a moment where I thought, if I could package up everything I know about recruiting and give it to my parents as a gift, I would. I would unchain them from the business and their lives would be dramatically different.
Wow.
So that is why I do what I do.
Wow. I love that. And I love the phrase you just said, unchain them from the business, because I know from working with 6-figure CEOs, the female CEOs that I work with, this whole idea of team building and really HR, it's kind of one of those things where they put it to the back burner and they just keep putting it off. They procrastinate because they are afraid. And so that's a beautiful bridge actually to my next question, which is you had a really neat post on LinkedIn. And it was all about the analogy between, comparing great hiring strategy to party planning. And I love that. Could you share that?
Sure. Yeah. So I love it when I have these moments where I can help people start to break free from that fear, because you're 100% correct that people who stay solopreneurs are bound up by fear. That and how big your team gets or what it looks like, that's all up to you. So when we think about party planning, we think about how big is the party going to be? What are we going to serve? Is it going to be a buffet? Is it going to be finger food? Are we going to make it big? Are we going to make it small? What about those decorations? We do all of this planning and we don't wait until the night before to run to the market or start to get decorations, because we know we'll be forced to just make do with whatever our local stores have available. And that doesn't work for anybody. So when I think about my hiring strategist role, it really is partnering up with these CEOs who want to create an extravagant business, which has nothing to do with how big your business is or how many people you hire. It simply has to do with an intentional and clear design about the type of business or party you want to create.
Wow. That is so good. And that brings the issues right up to the front about how important it is to hire the right people. Because I know from past experience as the director of HR in the corporate world, and now as a serial entrepreneur, hiring the right person can make all the difference in morale, in profitability, and so much more. And I really love building an extravagant business. I like that. Who wouldn't want to do that? But one of the things as a lawyer, and being in HR, there's a big difference we know between hiring an employee and a contractor.
Yes.
So I would love you to enlighten the ladies about the big important difference.
Yeah. This is, so Judy and I both having a corporate background, this rigor and structure of corporate America is in stark contrast to what feels to me like a little bit of the wild west of entrepreneurship. Like, people just hire somebody for the thing you don't want to do. Oh, just hire this person. So let's break it down in a couple different ways. So the contractor, the nature, the essence of a contractor relationship is transactional. The essence and the nature of an employee relationship is dynamic. So what do I mean by that? When you engage a contractor, when you go to a marketing agency, or even somebody who just is one person who has a marketing firm for social media, or maybe it's an operations person, somebody like a VA, or maybe it's a social marketer or social seller. Any one of those people who already have their own business and are serving other clients, you are paying them, number one, for their specialty. And also you are creating that transactional relationship because you're paying them hopefully for an outcome, right? You don't want to pay them for the task that they're going to do. You want to pay them for the outcome. It's this for that, right? And it's very, very clear how that relationship works. And it's relatively immediate, usually short term, usually, hire a web designer to create your website, all those different pieces. Versus an employee, the question isn't this for that. The question is, you are not necessarily making you're getting an immediate outcome, you're making an investment. Right? So there's a little different mindset. It's not just what I get, which is what we think about in a contractor relationship. In an employee relationship, the question becomes, what can I share? Ooh, so the differences between the two are remarkable because this is part of the shift a CEO needs to make from that employee mindset that many of us had to an employer mindset. And so thinking about—
so good. I'm sorry, I just had to say that is so good. And I had never thought about that. Like, we always have to worry about ROI for the hire, whether it be contractor or employee. And we're going to talk about that in a second. But I really just want that to land. And I would love, if you wouldn't mind me throwing in another example. When you're thinking about a contractor as a web designer, and we're talking about what's the outcome, that's easy. They're going to, I'm paying them X, and here's my, beautiful new website. But even, ladies, if you are hiring a social media manager or a social media person who's posting for you or doing the DMs and the social selling for you, I need you to understand, don't think of it paying by the hour, although you may be, but I hope you're attaching, here is what the expected outcome, like X number of leads. And so there's got to be that outcome. So if you have anything further to add on that, I really think that's worth everyone kind of thinking about, because I think too many times as women are growing their business and they're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to hire somebody. Yeah. Ooh, I don't have the money for the employee. I can't afford that. But they think they can afford like $15 an hour or something, but they're really not thinking, wait a minute, that $15 an hour employee can also be driving revenue if you set them up for success.
Correct. Yes. So many good things about what you just said. So I actually have a 3-part post series on my site about what to ask a contractor before you hire them and what to know about making a good contractor relationship. The third part isn't posted quite yet, but that's a place folks can go to get a little more detail. But when we think about that contractor relationship, the one thing I tell people, if they take nothing else away from this conversation, is interview your contractors. So you're not interviewing them the same way that you would interview an employee. Remember, we're thinking about specialty over values, whereas with an employee, we're thinking about values over specialty, right? So there's a difference. But if you interview a contractor for their outcomes that they have gotten for other people like you, it clears away all of the marketing stuff, all of the packages, all of the things that they've come to you and said, here's my thing, here's my stuff. If you go into that conversation and say, tell me about whatever those outcomes you're looking to have, let's say it's posts a week, leads, whatever those things are, you are putting yourself in the driver's seat, as opposed to what I see sometimes CEOs doing is they talk to somebody and they like them and they think, well, that's their offer, so that's what I'll do. That's what they have, so that's what I'll buy.
Yep. And I think that's a double-edged sword. You know, the Lord God really built us to be relational.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've never met a woman, no matter how successful she became, 7-figure, 8-figure, that didn't say, why I started the business was to impact people's lives. It was never to become the multimillionaire. It's because we lead with our heart. So I can totally, I've seen it happen. And myself in years before where I'm like, I really like this person and I'm not really sure if they're going to work out, but oh, they're so nice. And, you know, so yeah, we can, you know, make it a priority that they align with us, with our core values, but we've got to put substance over emotions when we're making hiring decisions.
Yeah, we can have a big heart and be analytical, right? Because a CEO, a woman who has taken her seat as CEO of her business, understands there's a difference between who she is and her business. It's sometimes difficult and it can be really tricky because the two sort of ebb and flow, and I respect that. However, when we take our seat as CEO, it makes it easier for us to make those decisions that feel difficult when it comes to people, because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't want to tell anybody that they're not doing a good job. But if we find ourselves in those moments, listen to that instinct, trust that guidance so that you can understand what's working and not working. Maybe there's an opportunity to make some changes and it blossoms. But if not, and this is something I told a CEO recently, by keeping that person on, whether they're a contractor or an employee, you are preventing them from doing the thing that they should be doing because they're not succeeding with you. So you're taking up space in their world and removing from them an opportunity to flourish someplace else.
Wow, that is a mouthful. That might become the audio clip for the episode. There's been so many great nuggets already. And I bet what's coming is going to be another great nugget. Okay, I want us to go a little bit deeper on this idea of overcoming the fear and looking at ROI. How can we measure ROI to make sure we're doing a good thing in hiring?
Yeah, fear is real. Let's be honest, right? This is our baby. We created this. We built it, our identity, which we have to be careful of, especially as Christians, having our identity wrapped up in the thing that we do. However, that solopreneur who hesitates or kicks the can down the road when it comes to hiring and justifies it with excuses like, I don't mind working hard, or I'm a bootstrapper anyway. Those types of conversations we have with ourselves are really based in fear. So when it comes to thinking about ROI, we want to think about capacity and revenue. So I call it the One Higher Multiplier. And so, and Judy and I were mentioning this earlier, a common phrase we hear in entrepreneurship is just hire somebody for the thing you don't want to do. And it seems on the face of it that that's pretty good advice, because who wouldn't love to get the thing you don't want to do off of your plate, because there's so many things you're good at and you like to do. But what it doesn't do is finish the question in terms of the revenue. So the One Higher Multiplier helps a CEO draw a line from what that person will do to an increase in revenue. And it can be a contractor, it can be an employee. But when we can draw that line, so the thing that I want to do that will increase more members in my community, more people taking my course, more products for me to offer, or maybe you have a business that's running and it's pretty sustainable and you've got something else that you want to do, right? So you can make sure that you've got somebody who's helping you drive that train while you go and do something else. So the One Higher Multiplier helps people figure out the ROI by thinking about what this person will do, not who, that's second, what this person will do and how that will help them draw a line to the increase in their revenue in their business.
Okay, this is really amazing. I just love the idea of the One Higher Multiplier. So can you attach a number to that and or an example? Like, for example, if you hire sales, do you say, you know, they should be generating 4 or 5 times what you're paying them? Or is there any guidance in that regard?
That's a great question. It's difficult because your growth strategy is different than mine. My trajectory for my business is different than yours. So we can come up with generalities around if they have this type of role, what can they do, sort of what's in the market. But I hesitate to put any general numbers on that until I understand what somebody's business is at. Because if you are fairly early stage in your business, what I call the proof of concept stage, that revenue number, whatever it is today and what you want to multiply it to, might actually be several steps. If you're past proof of concept stage and you're in active growth stage, it might happen really quickly because you've got some of those systems and processes down. So it really is unique to each person and their business plan, sort of that intentionality about creating the business that they want to create. So I usually hesitate to say it will absolutely do X for your business or it will absolutely do Y for your business, because I think it's a little misleading sometimes when people say, oh, do this to get that, because there's a process between those two parts.
Gotcha. Yeah, I didn't know if there was like a benchmark, you know, to say in the sales role, you should target for this. And if you get that, all the better. So there's nothing really like that in approach the work.
When I talk with people and I learn their business, we talk about that for their particular business.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So website designer, let's say he wants to hire another web designer. We'll continue with that. Well, he's got a couple of options, but if he says, okay, I know that I can create 3 websites a month. I'm going to hire somebody because I want to create 6 websites a month. That's a good hire. You just doubled your revenue.
Right.
Okay. So those are the types
Love
of conversations we have. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So let's talk about what you do exactly in the way that you partner with CEOs. First of all, at what level of CEO do you typically work, and what does that look like?
Yeah. So oftentimes folks that are looking to hire an employee, they're at the multi-6 level in their business before they're really thinking about, oh my goodness, this is real. I'm growing and I feel a little overwhelmed. So that frustration or that overwhelm is 2 of the common feelings that we have that makes us start to think, I actually need to make that shift into being an employer, which is why I say the first for next hire, because even after the first hire, many times there's a couple more that people are looking to make over time. So I do a couple things. One, for those businesses that are a little bit more mature and they're like, Sue, I got this. I just know I need to hire my top notch marketing manager. Great. We talk about that. We understand what that job is. I understand what's unique about their business, because I have a whole nother strategy about how to attract people to your business regardless of your size. So that's one way. So it really is a more mature business that's like, I know what I need, I know what I got, I know what I need to do. I've done this, and let's just see how quickly we can use speed and momentum in the market to help people. The second thing that I do is people that are in that active growth stage. So they're just coming out of that proof of concept stage and they're in active growth, and they're like, I think I need to make this hire, or I think I need to make a hire. How do I do that? That's a little bit more of a process to helping them understand the One Higher Multiplier, and then put some structure in place so that they can be an employer. So simple things like payroll. How do I do that? So I give them some options and sort of hold some, I was gonna say hold their hand, but I don't like that. Sort of give them some guidance. They don't need they don't need me to hold their hand. Just partner with them. We'll link arms. I like that better. We'll link arms sort of through this path to helping them sort of make that transition, so that they can make that strategic hire.
Okay, that's really awesome. So as you work with CEOs, do you help them kind of Futurecast to say, these are where I'm going in the next 3 to 5 or 10 years. And so this is what my org chart may look like, and approach hiring in that way?
We do. What I hesitate to do, again, depending on their stage of growth, is go too far out. Because one of the things I love about businesses that are online is they're fairly flexible. So once we design sort of that thing and we get that proof of concept and we understand what's working, chances are we've got at least half a dozen other ideas about things we can do. So I try and help them create a business or a structure for the business that they have today, and sort of what's out there maybe a couple of years down the road, so that we can keep it flexible. Because if you are hiring an employee who has your values alignment, one of the things that I want folks to think about as they grow their business is, how is this person going to grow with you? And so you give them that opportunity to show up as their best self and do their best work, and have an opportunity to continue to grow and develop in their career as your business grows and develops.
Okay, wow. I am just so intrigued. I keep going back to the One Higher Multiplier myself. That has got to be a book, and I hope that you trademark that. Okay, as a sister who loves you, I hope you trademark that. Okay, that's yours. Trademark it. Okay.
But then you're a lawyer, Judy.
Yeah. You know what? Okay, I'm going to give this out too. Trademarkia. I'm not sure how to spell it. I think it's trademarkia.com. I used to pay an attorney to do my trademarks. Now I go through trademarkia.com. You get an attorney, but it's several $100s less. So anyway, just there's an extra plug there. All right, as we wrap up, I know you have a show and it's called Pass It On.
Yes.
And I would love you to tell the listeners about that show.
Yeah, it's a fun one. I did this sort of on a whim when I started my business. You know, you see these people who I would say you sort of put in the position of they've made it, right? The big names we sort of think about, we all have sort of those names that pop into our head. But in between sort of your early stage entrepreneur and those made it people are most of us. And what's really powerful about Pass It On is that we're just talking to people who are maybe a few steps ahead of us. They don't necessarily, you know, feel so far away or so far removed from where we are that it's hard to even envision how we would ever be that person or be that type of business. Rather, I really try and find folks who made some of these hiring decisions. As a matter of fact, one of the ladies I spoke with recently, Shannon, she had that moment where she realized that Contractor wasn't going to cut it, and she became an employer. And she had that moment of, oh my goodness, I'm responsible for somebody else. You know, it came and she was thrilled because her employee said to her, "You're the best boss I ever had." Oh, wow. So those are the things we talk about. What are those insights? What are those lessons learned that entrepreneurs who are maybe a little farther along, whether it be business strategy or hiring in particular, and how they've managed to build their business while maintaining, and this is huge, while maintaining alignment with their person and their values. That is so good. Where can we find this? Is it a podcast or is it on YouTube or? It's on my website. So spectacletalentpartners.com. I have them hosted there. I have them on Vimeo, but I'm thinking I maybe just switch them over to YouTube because that's where everybody goes. Yeah. I thought Vimeo was fancier, but I'm thinking YouTube is better. So I might just push them over there. Yeah. That is so awesome. Pass It On, soon to come on YouTube, and then it'll be search friendly and all that good stuff with SEO. That's right. Okay.
This is called the She is Extraordinary podcast. And so I would love you to identify an extraordinary woman in your life, hon, and tell us what makes her extraordinary.
Oh, Cal, I know so many. I'm blessed in that way. I really do. Extraordinary women. Can I have to pick just one?
How about two? Would that help? If you could
Yes.
highlight
Well,
two?
I have 3 sisters, so that's who came to mind. It's my 3 sisters. So my 3 sisters, each of them are so remarkably unique. Sometimes I wonder how we all grew up in the same house, because anybody that has sisters, so you know what I mean? Like there's just those moments where you're like, what? But each of them are so extraordinary because they have the biggest hearts and they're so passionate about what they do. They all do things that are so different. My one sister is a professor at a college. She teaches biology. My other sister is a personal trainer. My other sister is a pastor and pastor's wife. But each of them are so phenomenal in the space that they embody what I call your assignment, right? Your purpose, like the thing that you're here to do. So those would be my 3. My extraordinary women in my life are my 3 sisters.
I just love that because I love my sisters too, and they're very different. My twin sister is a lot like me, but yet she's very different in some ways. My older sister, she is a nurse. She has just the biggest heart of literally anybody I've ever met, except one of my sons, who is totally the biggest heart. They all have good hearts, but anyway, that is just so great. Thank you for sharing. Now, as we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you and find you? And where can they find that resource we had talked about earlier?
The resource we talked about earlier.
I think it was a 3-part.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the best way to find me is my website, spectacletalentpartners.com. Spectacle Talent Partners implies that when you think about hiring, you're actually creating a moment in time where you're creating something remarkable, like a fireworks display. You don't do it all the time. We don't do those every day, but when we do, we want it to be remarkable. That's the implication with Spectacle. So spectacletalentpartners.com or LinkedIn. I'm pretty visible there, Susan Gygax, or my webpage on Facebook. My phone number and my email address is right there on my homepage on my website. I make it easy to get to me. Cool. I'm not trying to hide, not trying to make people have to press a whole bunch of buttons. Just give me a call.
That is so great. And I apologize for, messing up your last name as you pronounce it. I'm like, oh, darn.
No, you're good. You did a fantastic job. Most people don't even try it.
All right. Well, as we wrap up, is there anything on your heart right now, Sue, that we didn't talk about that you would just like to relay now?
Yeah, I think the one thing I would say is I think a lot of people think about, why on earth would I pay a recruiter to recruit for me? How would that even work? What does that even look like? And that's part of the conversation. But the thing that I like to talk about or mention briefly is a recruiter like myself. We sit at the intersection of the market, your mission, and the position. And getting clarity on all of those 3 gives us the tools to be able to hire with speed and momentum. So that's the value of hiring a recruiter to work alongside you, kind of go down that path, link arms on that path, and bring the right people who can join your journey with you to creating that extravagant business.
I love that, because just like if you're building a business without a coach, it's not going to be as quick, right? Because we can't see our own blind spots. And in the way of hiring and recruiting, and especially it's kind of sort of similar to what it's always been, but yet it's kind of sort of very different in light of where we are. So the specialists, ladies, if you want to make the best hire in your business, Sue is the lady for you. So Sue, thanks so much for spending some time with us today.
My pleasure, Judy. Great to be here. Sending you lots of love. Stay healthy and wealth to everybody. Wealth, as we know, is our body, our soul, and our spirit. Let's go.
Amen. All right. Thank you again, Sue. And ladies,
Thank
thank you for listening. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And if you can, leave a rating and a review, just a quick moment, because that matters. We have reached the top 1.5% globally in our category. We want to keep moving up. And also let us know what topics you'd be interested in and some guests, because as we're growing, as you can see, we're bringing on some amazing, amazing ladies. So thank you again. Mwah. We'll see you next time. Take good care.
Thank you.